I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，参加先鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位的传世一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Let's not waste any time. Let's get right in to 76. We got to roughly the halfway point. So here's what 76 looks like. Last time, we did some dividing into 3 sections. We have an introductory section that talks about living things being soft and pliant while alive, but tough, brittle, and unyielding when dead. So that's the introductory part. Then the middle part, the main part of 76, talks about the difference between followers of life and followers of death. Starting with the followers of death that are hard and stiff, and then followers of life, quite the opposite, soft and yielding. Then we have the concluding part, which further utilizes the military and a tree as metaphors to illustrate this concept before getting to the concluding lines about how the powerful is actually a lower position, whereas the soft and flexible is actually in a higher position. So I'll get to that in just a moment. Last time we got to the middle section. We were talking about the followers of death and followers of life. So one of the main points that I made was that when we talk about the followers of life, we're not talking about someone who worships a death deity, someone who belongs to a death cult, who's out to kill themselves in a suicide pact or kill other people in acts of terrorism. Followers of death is none of the above. In the Tao Te Ching, followers of death simply mean those who are not flexible enough in their thinking to change with the times, to change with the circumstance, the environments, the situation, so they get left behind. They get eliminated by change. So, in modern day language, we may talk about the dinosaurs who have become extinct. They could not cope with the change that occurred. They did not have sufficient knowledge. They did not know where to go, what to do to keep themselves from environmental change, and therefore they died out, thus allowing the mammals to take over the landscape. So we would talk about those followers of death, that mentality as sort of a dinosaur mentality, is the mentality of extinction. And that's what the follower of death really means. It points to extinction. So that's the point at which we will pick up from last time. So I want to delve right into it and kind of step back a little bit from the end of last Sunday, reiterate some of the things we talked about, bring back some memories, and talk about some examples that we have all seen from the past few decades. We have already witnessed this particular Tao principle at work in our world in the recent past. So the warning, especially relevant for us today, right here and right now, because, my goodness, the world is in constant change. There's new stuff happening all the time. We turn around, we realize that, someone has gone out of business. Things are changing all the time. A place that you pass on a particular street that used to be such a fixture in the community, used to be open all the time, everybody goes there. Suddenly, one day, you drive by and you see that it's closed. And the next day, still closed. The day after that, still closed. What's going on? Come to find out, it's gone out of business. Such a fixture in the community, no longer there. Has that happened to you? It's happened to me plenty of times. So we're in a world of accelerating change, constant change. That change is going on. It has been going on for quite some time. It's going on right now, even as we speak. It's going to continue to go on after we're done with today's talk. So, examples that we talked about last time. So I spoke of how cameras with negatives with film in it that had to be developed. Those were all phased out in favor of digital cameras that didn't need any of those things. And digital cameras themselves, I never thought it would happen, but it did. They got phased out as well. So today, only professionals use these old cameras, old technology cameras, for specific needs. For 99.9% of the population, for just about everybody, we've all gone to using just our smartphone as our always available, always ready camera. And not only is it a digital camera that's already built in, has high resolution, has more storage than you can ever use, not only that, but it's actually a camcorder as well. It's a digital camcorder. We can record videos, not just photos. Resolution is getting better all the time. Capacity is getting bigger all the time. Constant change still happening. So remember music, was such a big deal when we had Napster, was such a controversial thing. Now that's gone away, but the record companies, the record stores, those did not survive. Just like there are still special needs, professional grade cameras being used today by photographers, there are still some record stores that have a specialization in rare, vintage, hard to find records. So they do a good deal of business in that. But that is the exception. The music industry today, very different from what it used to be. I grew up back in the days when young guys dreamed about joining a band and then getting signed by a record company to a deal and then becoming rich and famous. Not anymore. That's the way it used to be. It's not the way it is today, and it will most likely never go back to being that way in the future. Now, what we watch, the theaters, the movie theaters, the cinemas that we go to, video cassettes, the shows of, our favorites, the recordings, to DVDs, and let's not forget the video recorders, the digital recorders that we have today. Just push a button, and who would have thought? This technology is amazing, and when it came out, I thought that it was magic. That during a live television broadcast, someone can simply hit a pause button and it will pause. Of course, in the background, the digital video recorder has kicked in and is recording everything from the moment where you hit pause. And you can go off and do something else. You can go make a sandwich. You can get a coffee. You can do whatever you want. And when you come back and unpause, it'll continue on. And now you lag real time by X amount of time, perhaps 10 minutes or so. So, that's something that's already becoming real. That's already a reality for us for many years now. And then, we have Blu-ray, we have high definition videos at home. We have experience at home that becomes increasingly close to what we used to require movie theaters to get. And in the future, it's going to continue to evolve. It's going to be more like video on demand more and more. movies on demand whenever you want, and whatever kind of movies you want. Not just a particular movie that you're interested in, but if you're in the mood for something, maybe you just happen to, you want to call up a romantic comedy that you haven't seen before, and you want it, and you have a bunch of, favorite actors, actresses that you watch all the time. Take a look at the database. Look at the preferences. Look at your ratings of your past viewed movies and compare that to other people. Within a millisecond, it determines the perfect movie for you for right now. Something that you haven't seen before, but something that it knows based on the algorithm that you will like. Wow, that's something that we didn't have a long time ago. We used to have to ask people, friends, for recommendations. Well, not anymore. Things are changing. Things are changing all the time. And it's the same with books, e-books, and it's going to be, we're also moving to a point where you can read whatever you want, whenever you want. The World Wide Web itself is completely inexhaustible as a resource. We used to have encyclopedias, well, not anymore. We still have them, we're just using them in a different form. Today, the dominating factor is Wikipedia. It's not Encyclopedia Britannica or any other brand of encyclopedia. It's the internet itself. It's Google. It's Wikipedia, etc. So things are constantly changing. If we're not able to keep up with this change, if we're clinging to the past, attached to the past, unable to let go, then we too are followers of death. So this is approximately where we were last time, and I want to press on. And I want to share with you the real followers of death, those who have proven to be followers of death because they were not able to change with the changing times, and therefore they had to be eliminated by change, eliminated by the passage of time in a very natural way. It has to happen because it is the Tao. And we don't want to be like that. So for cameras, while Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012, and think about where we are today, the prevalence of high-resolution, ultra-sharp photographs, convenience, unlimited storage, it's given rise to a new word, the word called selfies. And it's given rise to a world of selfie sticks. These are little gadgets you can buy. You attach your phone. At the end of it, you telescope it out a distance away from you, and you take a photo of yourself laughing with your friends with some sort of background that you choose. Selfie sticks. Wow. What's going on? This is a new world. And what about citizen reporters? What do I mean by that? Well, the prevalence of these recording devices everywhere. Everybody has them. Everybody can whip them out at a moment's notice. So any accident, any catastrophe, anything that's going on, there's an excellent chance that it will be recorded by more than one person. And later on, of course, you see them. You see them everywhere as viral videos being passed around on the internet. So nothing escapes attention. That's becoming increasingly the case. So think about music. Hey, I used to go to Tower Records, here in Southern California. That's a landmark. It's an icon. It's iconic. Tower Records filed for bankruptcy twice. First time in 2004, second time in 2006. It was completely eliminated by the passage of time, by change. It was not able to change with change, with the changing times. iTunes was the one that ushered in that wave. It became dominant. Now, does that mean that the iconic iTunes will not go the same way as Tower Records? Well, it doesn't mean that. There's going to be something else that's coming that's one day going to become dominant, taking the place of iTunes. So videos, everybody knows this one, Blockbuster Video. So doing some research on this, I thought perhaps they went bankrupt. Well, it turns out pretty close. They were just, bought successively by other companies who then closed down their operations. So all Canadian Blockbuster video stores were closed. Certainly, all the Blockbuster videos in my neighborhood, in all the places where I used to live, they were all closed. So I did not know this. Most U.S. stores are closed as well. There are, in the entire U.S., there are roughly 10 Blockbuster video stores left. I didn't think that there were, but these are the 10 most popular stores. And, one can just, I think, reasonably guess that they stay in business by being more specialists. That is, they know their customers, they get to know their customers really well, they know their preferences, their likes and dislikes, they're always ready, they have people who are really knowledgeable on staff, so when you walk into one of these stores, it's not just a place where you get the latest Blu-ray on something, it's also where you can chat and get recommendations. Hey, I'm in the mood for science fiction today. Do you have a favorite that may be something I haven't watched before? So they can talk about that. They can also socialize. And the store gets to stay in business and remain profitable. So can that change? Yes, it can. Change is still happening. Change is constant. So software, remember the egghead stores used to be all over the place. Now, they went out of business earlier than the other ones. Look at that, 1998. I used to hang out in egghead stores all the time. I loved that egghead store. I used to look at I went to their clearance center looking for bargains. That was my favorite thing to do. So I was at a loss, feeling kind of empty when they closed everything, including my favorite clearance center. But that's just the way things had to be. That's just the way things changed. Egghead switched its operations to online because that was the future. You had to change with the times. So the brick and mortar stores, those were the followers of death. So there are many other followers. There's a march going on, the march by the followers of death, following death into oblivion. So Sears, other traditional retail operations, and this is going to be controversial when I say this, but dominant auto manufacturers today, a lot of them will also become followers of death. If they cannot make a successful change into the next paradigm, they would also be eliminated by history. Next up, get into the followers of life territory, starting with the character ruo, which we also covered last time. So the pinyin is R-U-O. So that, to the typical native speaker of English, you might look at that and say ruo. So it's actual Mandarin pronunciation is ruo. It's not really equivalent to the pinyin for English speakers. You just have to kind of get used to the sound when you study Mandarin. So the meaning of this character in modern Mandarin is weak or feeble, opposite of strong. However, in this ancient context, the meaning is a little bit different. Here, ruo is not a weakling, but someone who has the ability to yield to reality. That is, when things change, or when there's an obstacle in your way, you cannot proceed further, ruo is someone who has the ability to recognize that and then go a different way. So when there's compelling evidence contrary to your preconceptions, perhaps your personal, political, religious, scientific beliefs are so-and-so, and you are set on them. However, if one day someone were to present compelling ideas to the contrary, backed up by evidence, then we get to divide up people in two categories. then there are people who will still cling to their previous beliefs even more powerfully than before and refuse to accept the evidence. But then there is also another group of people, the minority perhaps, who will evaluate the new evidence and then finding that the evidence is compelling and true, change their views based on that. So one particular scientist who's an atheist is asked, what would it take for you to become religious? He said, one compelling proof, that's it. He will change immediately to being religious instead of atheistic. So that's what we're talking about here. Someone who will base belief on reality. And the ability to let go of old ideas in order to learn something new. And you guys have heard me tell the story many times previously about the arrogant, young man visiting the wise old sage and already having a lot of preconceptions, full of ideas that he wants to bring into the discussion and quote unquote disprove the old philosopher, the old sage's outdated notions. So as the old sage is filling his cup with tea, he just kept pouring until that tea is overflowing the cup, getting onto the table, getting everywhere, making a splash, making a mess. So the young man is like, what are you doing? You're making a mess. And the old sage wisely says, well, this cup that is overflowing is like your mind. It's already full, so when it's full like that, how can it take in any more tea? So it's a metaphor for a mind that is unable to let go of old ideas in order to take something new, like fresh hot tea. So raw has those connotations. It does not mean someone who's a weakling, a pushover, as I mentioned last time. So now let's talk about the followers of life. So first of all, this is the opposite of the followers of death. And that would suggest, we were talking about how the followers of death were people eliminated by change, who were left behind as things are changing, improving, moving on, progressing. They can't change with it, so they are left behind. They are eliminated. If this is the opposite of that, then followers of life would denote someone who is able to adapt and survive, who is able to handle change. But there's actually more than that. There's more to that in the Tao. Not just someone who can handle change, who can survive, who can cope, but someone who can take advantage, someone who can thrive. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving under the new conditions. Take advantage of changing conditions, maybe see them coming before other people do, and then take action on it before other people get the jump on everybody. That is a true follower of life. So you want to be ready, you want to anticipate the possible changes that are coming, and oftentimes the most useful way to figure out what changes are coming is to take the past and the present and project into the future. And it's also helpful to listen to the ideas expressed by some of the leading scientists because they're at the leading edge of research. What they are researching today may become products or everyday reality tomorrow. So all of this begins with the mentality of curiosity. You've got to be curious on what's happening now. You've got to be curious on what's after this. What's going to be coming tomorrow? What's next? So let's explore that. So it's a challenge for me to you as well. I'm going to ask, well, what's next? In terms of cameras, well, we already got these smartphones with these incredible cameras, incredible technology, all that storage. I can't even use it up. So I've got thousands of pictures now, you know. I can't imagine anything beyond this. Well, first of all, it's increasingly taken for granted. So if one day, you know, think about decades ago, if one day someone says, all these, you know, cameras that you see, all the tourists, they are taking pictures everywhere. If someone said one day these cameras will all disappear, at that time I probably would have said, well, that's I can't quite buy that. Maybe they will get smaller, lighter, diminish in number, but disappear? No, that's not going to happen. You know, I would have dismissed it outright. But today, in a sense, they have disappeared because they're melded into the phone. So it used to be that you had to carry a camera and a cell phone. They were two separate things. Today, they are one thing, and that one thing is a lot smaller than either one used to be. So in a sense, cameras have disappeared. So they get taken for granted. It's always included. Resolution goes ever higher. So whatever pictures you take, the resolution will be so high that it will always include more details than the naked eye can see. So there used to be, in this movie called Blade Runner, there used to be a scene in that movie where a detective is taking a photograph and zooming in on part of that photograph to get clues on a crime scene. As the detective is zooming in, it didn't lose resolution. It revealed more and more details. So when I looked at it at the time, when I looked at this movie at the time, I said, okay, they got the science wrong. You know, when you zoom in as much as the detective is doing now, you get these blocky pixels, because that's how we used to know about computer graphics back then. Well, lo and behold, today we have high-resolution photographs that are exactly like that, that normally when you view them, you see a scene, but when you zoom in, you see a lot more details because the cameras are so incredibly high-resolution now. That's only going to become more and more the case in the future. And think about all the video cameras everywhere for surveillance, while their resolution go higher and higher too. So it used to be that from surveillance video, you look at the face of a perpetrator of a particular crime, you see a big blurry mess. In the future, you'll be able to tell exactly who that is, as surveillance cameras get upgraded everywhere with higher and higher resolution. So that's the world we're heading into. It's going to happen. There's no preventing it. And you don't even have to look through a lot of footage. In the future, you're going to have computer assistants to identify who the people are in the picture. Facial recognition is already very sophisticated today. So no matter where you go, it's possible for someone, an interested party, perhaps a state, to be able to tell that's where you went, you were at a particular place at a particular time, and here's photographic proof of your presence there. So music, what about music? What's next? What's coming up? What's in the future? So we need music in our lives. There's no doubt about that. So in the future, the idea is any music, anywhere, anytime, and it's all provided wirelessly. Wherever you have a Wi-Fi connection, music can come in that way. If you don't have a Wi-Fi connection, it can come in through the cellular signal, the cell phone network. And what do I mean when I say facilitated by AI assistants? Well, it's actually simple. When you have basically the world's entire music library at your disposal, you can be a little bit lost as to what to listen to. So you might say, you know, play light jazz, or play classical music, or, you know, in my case, play heavy metal music. And the computer, the artificial intelligence, will note your preferences and then bring you something that it thinks you will like. And it will get to know you and be able to pick better and better choices. Like, it'll actually become a good friend who knows your likes and dislikes. So that's common. And the cost for the music, well, it's going to be on the same trajectory that it's always been. It used to be that you have to buy an entire album for, like $10 to $15, and you buy the whole thing. You just maybe want a few songs from that album, but you buy the whole thing. Well, later on, iTunes, you can buy individual tracks, 99 cents. So more and more, music is going to go in that direction in the future. It's going to be, hey, a monthly subscription cost, that's all there is. Listen for as much as you like. So you can even put an individual cost on the track anymore. Again, my emphasis is that the world is changing. Everything we know, everything we're familiar with, it's all changing. Food, what about food? I mean, we're still going to need to eat food. That hasn't changed, right? Yeah, but order automation. Think about the kiosks that you will see more and more of when you go to McDonald's or other fast food restaurants. Increasingly, you will not be interacting with humans. You will be interacting with a screen, a touch screen, where you touch the different things that you want, and it'll have the options. Yeah, give me a hamburger, but leave out the onions, stuff like that. Whatever customization you want, it's all right there in front of you. Quantity. And if you have gone to a steakhouse recently, you might have seen that at every table there's a little console. Colorful, graphical, touch-friendly. You can use that to summon the waiter or order appetizers, desserts, get more water, refill your drinks, whatever you like. So increasingly, it's becoming automated, and it's going to be one day we will get to a point where there are very few restaurants that have actual waiters. It's not even going to be like a science fiction movie where you have robot waiters. It's probably not going to be to that extent. It's probably going to be something different than we imagine. So full automation, kiosks, consoles, that's common. Or takeout. Takeout will be delivered, order online, and delivered by drone, by automated vehicles. All kinds of possibilities waiting for us. It's all changing as we speak. And shopping, well, it's going to be more and more the case where when we shop and check out our purchases, we can go through this automated checkout register as well, scan the items, we bag it ourselves, pay, and go. That's it. And one employee can supervise, oversee the operation of like a dozen of these. So it's much better from the perspective of the retail company. And it's also more convenient for everybody. Once you get used to the system, you don't really feel like it's an imposition. You just prefer to do everything your own way so that you can be sure of doing it right. So that's common. And transportation, massive changes are coming. Electric hyper vehicles, definitely coming. Look at all these companies that are transitioning to that footing. Automation of driving will creep in and take over, and that's going to creep a lot of people out. Like, people will be fearing this particular change. People will say, I will never set foot in a car that's not driven by a human driver that I can trust. Well, that's actually the dinosaur mentality I was talking about. It's increasingly going to go away. Decades from now, this is the year is now 2017. So if all of these new things strike you as improbable, unlikely, it's okay, because this video is going to probably still be around and can be referenced many years from now. We're all going to be able to see how correct or incorrect I am. So I'm saying now, that vehicles will become increasingly automated. More and more parts of your driving, it's not just putting the car in cruise control, but intelligent cruise control. Cruise control that is able to react to changing conditions on the road. So that is common, and people won't think twice about pushing a button to get the car to park itself. That's already available. It's only going to become more prevalent. And because all these automated vehicles, these fleets are going to become available, some of them will take the place of Uber drivers, and this will decrease overall the need for parking structures. So this is all coming. And when we're done with all of Tao Te Ching, perhaps several years from now, I personally will be interested in taking a look at this particular slide again to see which ones of these predictions have become true. And I'm also looking forward at that time of ordering pizza for pizza delivery and then anticipating that delivery via drone or automated vehicle instead of the pizza delivery boy. So we'll see if I am right. So let's get to the concluding lines. First, we have this character, 强. So in pinyin, it's spelled with a Q, and it actually sounds like CH, 强. The modern meaning of that, strong, and it's usually very positive. And this is something that we covered last time as well, but let me emphasize, in this ancient context, the meaning is related, but it's not the same. It's actually a negative context, not positive at all. It's like when we say headstrong, you want to be a strong person, but you don't want to necessarily be a headstrong person. You want to be a strong person, but you don't necessarily want to come on too strong to the other person, especially in terms of like a relationship, courtship, dating. Don't want to come on too strong. So being headstrong, coming on too strong, that's actually where strong, quote unquote, can be used in a negative context, and that's exactly how 强 is being used in this particular context. So I'm highlighting 强 in two places. So in line 10, 强 applies to the military, like a strong military, or like a headstrong military. But what does that mean? It means what it means is that a military that is so powerful that it relies on the military strength to overcome its enemies, to achieve its military objectives, instead of the intelligent utilization of its strength. So yeah, kind of a headstrong army, come to think of it. An army that comes on too strong? Not quite, but definitely an army that is bent on complete elimination through brute strength. Now, strong, 强, in line 11 applies to wood or a tree that grows up tall and strong. So 强, the same Mandarin character, can be used for both the military and trees. But English does not have a single word that covers both, that has a similar meaning. So when I translated this, I had to use inflexible army and strong tree, two different English words to translate the same ancient Chinese character with a meaning that was more flexible than the modern English word. Okay, so let's talk about the military aspect of it. In this particular slide, you're going to see this, what I think of as iconic image from sort of a nerdy perspective. I hope you can identify this image. And if you are nerdy like I am, you probably already know what that is. I would invite you to type it out in the input, the questions section, so I can I can admire your knowledge of all things nerdy. And if you don't know what that is, it's from Star Wars. That's Admiral Akbar, where his force has flown into a trap prepared by the Imperial forces. So he says, "It's a trap," and then battle ensues from that point on. Okay, so let's get back to the Tao Te Ching. Here, the line that Lao Tzu wrote says that being the military force, 强, strong or headstrong, inflexible, and it will not win, 不胜. So we have second from last character means no, and then the last character means to triumph or to be victorious. So it's basically saying that, hey, the strong military or the headstrong military is not going to win. Now, we would normally expect the stronger military would win, would emerge with a victory. So what is the meaning here? Well, it's about this army that is complacent because it is strong and powerful. And therefore, it's too aggressive. It just wants to charge and wipe out the enemy. So because of that, instead of following a sensible strategy, probing, revealing enemy position, and then attacking with just the right amount of force, the tendency is to be like a tank, just to roll over and crush the enemy. So how well does that work? Well, it's much more likely to charge right into a trap if the enemy understands that this is the thinking, this is the lack of thinking from a more powerful military force, then there is a lot that it can do to entrap, to spring a trap on them. And Chinese history is full of examples like this. If you read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the Saga of the Three Kingdoms, it's full of accounts, full of strategies where a smaller force is able to lay a trap for a much larger superior force, one that is overconfident, one that is inflexible, one that charges forward, then spring the trap on them, which causes a panic. Panic is like a chain reaction, and it can reach a critical mass. Once it takes over an army, even if that army is 10 times stronger than your own, suddenly the ranks are collapsing. Suddenly, many of the soldiers are throwing down their weapons, turning around and running away. While they are being chased by your much smaller force, hacking, slashing at them from behind, killing them from behind, and winning victory against a superior force. And that can happen in life as well. Let's talk about the tree part of this. When we apply this to a tree, 强 means the tree grows strong, so it's tough and unyielding. And people come by and say, this is excellent wood. I can use it. I want to build a house or a boat or a bridge or something. So it gets cut down. So much like the strong army, the headstrong, inflexible army gets cut down, the big, powerful tree gets cut down too. So the idea is related to what we talk about how, if you stick out like the head of a nail, you get hammered down. Or the big tree catches wind, which is a saying in Chinese to say that, well, you get far more negative attention when you have fame, when you are getting bigger. So I unfortunately cannot translate 强 as inflexible. it's a little bit odd for me to say, oh, that tree is so inflexible. It won't change its plans so that we can go out to the restaurant together. It's so inflexible. It's kind of odd to talk about the tree that way, so I have to go back to the original meaning, which is strong. So now that you understand the disciples or the followers of death, you can see that this is really just another way to express the same idea. The strong tree getting cut down, just like the followers of death being eliminated by change, being left behind, end up on the chopping block. Won't be able to continue on as a tree anymore. You can still be useful as furniture, just like inflexible people can be useful as historical footnotes. So this line, I want to make sure we all understand this point. When we talk about this big, tall, strong tree, we're not talking about being durable like strong timber. That seems like a very good thing. I can build a strong house using strong timber, etc. So this line is about being stubborn. This line is about being unwilling or unable to change because the world will move on without you. That's the sad reality of it. Okay. Now we complete this chapter with the last two lines, the conclusion. So, contrary to common conception, it's not always a good idea to be big and powerful. This can be too much to subscribe to, so I want to provide some examples. Especially in the West, we put a lot of stock in being big and powerful. We think about the preference for big companies, big powerful companies, big powerful nation with a big powerful military like the United States itself, big powerful football players that can do things on the field, big powerful athletes in general. We like big and powerful. So why is it, when is it, that big and powerful is not a good idea? So think about a big truck. It generates a lot of momentum, so as it is traveling in a forward direction, it can be very difficult to stop. It takes a long time for the truck to come to a stop because it is so big and heavy, it's got so much momentum, so much mass, and that means it can be dangerous. In a similar way, think about a big cruise ship or maybe a super tanker. It cannot turn on a dime, it just can't. When you want to turn such a big ship, you have to plan it out, and you have to allow for a lot of time to pass before a meaningful change in direction can actually be put into actuality. It just can't turn easily. An aircraft carrier, well, it's a ship meant for battle. It's huge, like a cruise ship, like a super tanker. Not only can it not turn on a dime, but also it presents a really big target. So there's a new military thinking about the advisability of building these big aircraft carriers, because you can, for a fraction of the cost of building these huge aircraft carriers, nuclear power, hundreds of crew members, for a fraction of that cost, you can create many cruise missiles that will take it out, that will damage it. Now, there's countermeasures that for instance, the U.S. military has devised to prevent something like that from happening. So far, no aircraft carriers have suffered that sort of attack, but you can bet that type of scenario is already being considered by military strategists everywhere. In the next war, hopefully we will never have another war. If there was a war happening with aircraft carriers, you will see that kind of strategy, that kind of tactics being executed. Missiles against aircraft carriers. So a large corporation is like a big ship or a big truck. It's got a lot of momentum, so changes happen slowly. Bureaucracy become very entrenched. You can't change anything. In addition to these examples, being big and powerful can, because of ego, being big and powerful can blind you to the need to be agile, quick and flexible, and perceptive to changing conditions. So you might not care. You might be like, huh, who cares? I'm big and powerful. Nothing can really hurt me. So what do I need to turn? What do I need to be flexible? I don't. I can go anywhere, do whatever I want, and whatever's in my way, I'll just go right over it. I'll crush it. I'll smash it. That is the thinking that is typical in a sort of a Western culture type of mentality that's come to worship the big and powerful. So Lao Tzu says, while the opposite is true, you want to be small and nimble. You want to have the mentality of being small and nimble and agile. Now you can be, Lao Tzu doesn't say that you have to, the size has to be small in order for this to take place. He's only talking about the mental attitudes, the ideas, the concepts. Therefore, it's possible, as an example, for a large company, a large corporation, to have the same fast-paced, agile, changing, perceptive, flexible mindset, just like a small company. So the opposite of big and forceful is not small and weak, it's the soft and pliant. So let me go back to the first two characters here. The first character is soft. Second character is ruo, the character for weak. In line 12, the first character, 强, that's strong. Second character is big. So when you look at these, the second character is not small. And there's a specific reason for that. It's possible to practice softness and flexibility at any size, at any level of strength. It's all how you think. So a big, powerful guy, someone who is really tall and has years of experience with the fighting arts of some kind, that person can actually be very soft-spoken and be very polite. So that's what we're talking about here. So the large and powerful, like a large and powerful company or corporation, need not be broken up into smaller units, like small subsidiaries. That may not be necessary. Like everything else, the large and powerful company, like the large and powerful individual, has to cultivate the ability to adapt. So for the big, powerful guy who's very strong and who may be even, a boxer or some kind of a karate champion, that big, powerful guy has to cultivate the ability to adapt the soft skills, that is, the courtesy to provide people with a polite interaction, to provide people with gentle, soft-spoken, very positive interactions and attitudes that causes everything to work out perfectly. It's possible. You don't have to be small to have that. You can be at any size and have that. So an example that I have is Microsoft's Internet Explorer. So I'll give you the quick outline on that, and then we will talk about it in greater detail next time. That's because it gets into technical aspects, and I would rather for us to stick to more of a life-related, practical, everyday reality level for our discussion today. So when I talk about the Internet Explorer, what I want to say to everybody is that in the very beginning, back in the 1990s, initially in 1993, there was this thing called Netscape, and Microsoft was very dismissive at first and said, that's nothing. But later on, they realized how important it was. They created Internet Explorer, which became dominant. So that's an example of a big company becoming flexible and responding to changing conditions. I'll give you all the details next time. For now, I need to get to the story that I think best illustrates our point today about this soft approach. So when you use the soft approach in life, one very important thing is to recognize the role of ego. So what do I mean by that? You may feel that, no, I'm a strong person, I'm strong-willed, so I'm not easily swayed. So, you know, I am powerful, I am strong, but actually Lao Tzu says that's the ego talking. You are actually not that. You want to ask, am I saying that I am strong as a justification for not wanting to take action in responding to change? Just being lazy. And second question, is there fear beneath the surface? You know, I say that I am strong-willed, I'm not easily swayed, but is it because I'm fearing change? Let's explore fear in greater detail with a story. So once upon a time in mythical China, not historical by any stretch of the imagination, in ancient mythology, the monkey was faced with a choice. The monkey had this opportunity to become human. And the monkey knew that becoming human carried many advantages. Monkey, once you become human, you can think better. You can come up with all kinds of tools that you can use to further master your environment. You can make things. You can create things. You can create society. You know, being human is infinitely better than being a monkey. So, want to become a human? And the monkey knows, well, if I want to become a human, I need to change. I need to get rid of my tail. I need to cut off my tail as the first step to becoming human. So that's going to be painful. I don't know. If I cut it off, that's going to hurt, man. There's discomfort in change. And once it's cut off, how am I going to be able to hang from trees with my tail? It's already cut off. Am I going to be able to move around as easily as I could before, swing from one tree branch to another? You know, maybe I won't be able to move around like I can now. There's risk in change. And looking at my tail, the monkey thinks, stroking its tail affectionately, it's been with me all these years. It's been my faithful companion. I can't stand to let it go. It's been loyal to me. I'm going to be loyal to my friend, my tail. So I'm going to keep my tail. I'm not going to cut it off. And so this is the reason why the monkey is still around, never became human. Why? Despite the infinite benefits to the monkey to change, the monkey fears change because of the pain and discomfort that's possible, because of the risk. Oh, it might not make me better, because of the emotional attachment. So my question to everybody becomes, what is your monkey tail? What is something that you are stroking affectionately? It's my friend. It's been around. Yeah, if I let it go, I can advance forward, I can change, I become something new, but I want to hang on to it because I have an emotional attachment to it. So that's what we're talking about here. If you hang on to your monkey tail, you are automatically categorized as a follower of death. Only by embracing change, cut it off, can you become the follower of life. So now it's time for me to introduce you guys to a term, 把脉. What is that? 拼音把脉. What does it mean? It means post-diagnosis. This is important in traditional Chinese medicine. One of the mainstays of traditional Chinese medicine, just like you probably think about acupuncture when we talk about traditional Chinese medicine. Some of you that have actually visited a practitioner of TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, you might have had the herbal medicine. You might have also experienced the 把脉. That's where your hand is placed on a cushion, and the traditional Chinese medicine practitioner uses 3 fingers on your wrist. There are 3 specific locations, and the pressure that the practitioner uses has 3 levels of pressure. There's a superficial level of touch, there's a medium level, and then there's a deeper touch, each revealing something different. So that's what we're talking about here. And watch for distortions of 把脉. In a novel written by a Western author, hyped as an expert of Eastern culture, but actually doesn't really know much at all, 把脉, which is Cantonese pronunciation of 把脉, it's described as a superhuman ability to feel the pulse of anything, including security systems. And this is how the main character in that novel is able to bypass an electronic security system by using 把脉. So I wish I was making that up, but this actually appeared in a mainstream novel. This is the kind of thing that I come across all the time, and I've pretty much taken it for as business as usual. But I want you to know, 把脉is just for medicinal diagnosis purposes, medical diagnosis purposes, and it's something that's frequently done when you visit a traditional Chinese medical doctor. So that's what I'm going to show you here. This is these are the 3 fingers on the 3 spots. 中医 Chinese doctor 把脉, the post-diagnosis. So this is related to a story I'm about to relate to you, because once upon a time in ancient China, there was a doctor who was so renowned that he was known as a doctor with divine powers of healing. He maintained, after decades of practice, he maintained this perfect record. He was able to take care of, he never lost a single patient, and he never made a wrong diagnosis, not even once. So his fame was something that was spread far and wide, and people came all around to see him. And he decided to take on a young man as an apprentice. Young man studied hard, learned his techniques, prepared the medicine, and in general became a very good medical traditional Chinese medicine doctor himself. So then one day the time was right. The old doctor felt that it was okay now that the younger disciple, the younger apprentice, now knew enough to be able to see patients. So he made the announcement. Now there would now be 2 doctors seeing the patients. For people with relatively light, and not very serious conditions, they can see the younger doctor, and people with a really serious ailment can continue to come to the old, experienced doctor. So this went on for a while, and then the doctor notices that the people that went to see the younger doctor, his apprentice, the number kept increasing. And those that came to see him, the one with the serious conditions, those kept decreasing. And he said, well, that's just the way it is, because when you treat them, when you catch them early, when the condition is still not too serious, then it never becomes serious enough to warrant my attention. And, you know, I'm getting old anyway. I want to relax. I want to be able to do less. So this is working out well for me. But it still bugged him. You know, what's going on? And then one day he notices that even people with serious conditions went to see the younger doctor. So he started to feel like a little bit, maybe this is not right, but he couldn't really put his finger on it. So it was bugging him that when he met with a friend of his for tea, an old friend, that he brought this up. He talked about this. And his friend says, well, you know, I can maybe go to your clinic and look around, make some observations, and maybe help you see what's going on. But just so you know, I also have been under the weather a little bit. You know, I developed this cough, you know, and the old doctor says, I knew it. Right as you came in, just by looking at your face, observing your color, and listening to the way you talk, the way you sit, the way you move, I knew that something was wrong. Give me your wrist. So his friend, you know, put his hand forward, and the old doctor applied his technique to take the post-diagnosis, and in only seconds he said, I knew it. I was right. You've got 寒气, cold chi energy, all around your lungs and your throat. That's what's causing your problem. And his friend is like, are you sure? Because, you know, I think I had some oranges. And the old doctor's like, no. It's the 寒气. That's it. I'm telling you, that's all it is. And his friend is like, well, you know, my friend, they were, and again, the doctor cut him off. No. It's got nothing to do with them. It's the 寒气. I'm telling you. And, you know, all you got to do is to take a prescription of particular herbs, and you will be okay in a week. That's it. No more discussion. That's it. We're done. And so his friend is like, okay. For a moment, I forgot who I was talking to. You are the doctor with the divine powers to heal. I forgot who you were. So, as per their agreement, his friend went to the clinic because he was still sick, and he went to see the younger doctor to try to figure out what was going on, what accounted for the increasing popularity of the younger man over the old master. And after a day, he met with the old doctor again, and he said, now I have gotten to the bottom of the mystery. And the old doctor is like, so why don't you tell me? And so his friend says, well, when I saw the young man, he was extremely courteous. He asked after my health, my family, you know, my loved ones, and he asked a lot of questions about how things are with my health in general. And when I told him about my problem, he did the same thing that you did, but then he took his time. He wanted to be sure. And then he observed me walking all around, and he asked about when the symptoms began and what I did that day. And, you know, we had this very lengthy discussion. I asked him whether or not it had something to do with the fruits that I had consumed, and he assured me that it was not related to that, but it was related to recent changes in the weather, that things became much colder. And when that happens, 寒气, the cold energy, the cold chi energy, could invade the body, and most of the time, it will come in the throat and the lungs. So I was very happy with his explanation. And then I asked him about my other friends who've been having similar conditions, been suffering for weeks. And he said, in a very reassuring way, he said that, well, I have this concoction, I have this herbal medicine that I will now prepare for you. And if you have this every day, I can guarantee you that in 1 week, you will be healed. And the old doctor says, well, that's exactly what I said. What's the difference? And his old friend says, well, he really took his time. He did not become impatient with me. At no point did he cut off what I wanted to ask. And yeah, I can completely understand that now that he has explained everything to me, I know that the questions I was going to ask you, those were all dead ends, and you knew that right away. So you cut them off so we wouldn't waste any time. But I have to tell you, I felt 10 times better after seeing the young man than I did after I spoke with you last time. That is the reason why all these people are going to him and not coming to you. And the old doctor is like thunderstruck. He's like, I never realized that was the case. I never thought, that people would see me that way. This is a revelation. So what are we talking about with this story? We're talking about the soft approach. Am I telling you that if you become a Chinese medicine doctor, you should improve your bedside manners? No, actually not. I am talking about something else. I'm talking about how the followers of death are not necessarily incompetent or inexperienced. They may be, like the old doctor, extremely experienced, and they become impatient. So because the success they had, they become complacent, and because of the position they attained, there is a distance between them and other people. You want to watch that in yourself. When you become successful, this is especially a possibility that you too become a follower of death. Instead, if you think about the followers of life, that means being sympathetic. It does not mean being weak. You can do that even when you have a lot of experience, a lot of competence, a lot of success, and a high position. So just knowing what to do, that's just part of it. You also need to listen. You also need to understand and relate to people. So your focus has to be on the two things here, being flexible and being responsive. So I hope that you've gotten something out of that story about the old doctor. Next time, we will cover what's left, which is the paraphrase for this chapter. For now, I want to remind everyone that if you feel that like you can benefit from following the path of Yiguan Dao, if you would let me know, I'd be happy to help you seek and receive the Tao. There are only 2 points that I want to remind everyone as a summary for this chapter. Number 1 is about change. Look at the past, extrapolate to the future. So when we talk about change, it's not just a slogan, everybody. I want to challenge you. Can you think of upcoming changes that will affect you personally? And what are some things that you can look into to learn about that will give you some ideas? Number 2, the more accomplished you are, like the old doctor, like the old Chinese medicine doctor, in our story, the more accomplished you are, the more humble you have to become. Success can cause you to lose touch with reality, so the challenge is to be receptive, courteous to everyone, and patient, even when you know you're right, even when you know they're wrong. The challenge is to be patient at a time like that, not cut them off. Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，持架3鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，3鞠躬，持架多一点，传世1鞠躬，接班1鞠躬。We are done, everybody. Thank you so much.